Trustee Gieser.
Here.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Here.
Trustee McCarthy.
Here.
Mayor Severino.
Here. Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Their motion to approve the minutes of our April 3rd, 2023 Village Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee McCarthy, seconded by Trustee Fruzzoloni. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Gieser.
Aye.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve but not release of the executive session minutes from April 3rd, 2023 Village Board meeting?
So moved. Second.
Moved by trustee, seconded by Trustee Berger. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Gieser.
Aye.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Under listening posts, we have several things to read. I will start right off with the first one, Resolution Number 3302, a resolution commending Thomas Garvey for service as village trustee. Whereas Thomas Garvey was appointed as village trustee to fill a trustee vacancy and served in that position from December 21st, 2020 to April 30th, 2023. And whereas during his tenure as village trustee, Thomas Garvey has been a strong advocate for Carol Stream's veterans, contributing to fundraising efforts for the Veterans Memorial at the Ross Ferrell Town Center and Operation Support Our Troops, and has held a watchful eye on village finances. And whereas Thomas Garvey has been a Carol Stream resident for almost 3 decades and has been a strong advocate and supporter of the village. And whereas Thomas Garvey has served the village of Carol Stream and its residents well and with distinction, and has contributed greatly to the welfare of this village. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and the board of trustees here publicly commend and thank Thomas Garvey on behalf of the village of Carol Stream for his service to the community, passed and approved this 17th day of April 2023. I have a plaque for you.
Pardon me?
I have a plaque for you.
Come on down.
Come over here.
What do we have?
Yeah, don't we need,
Just moving up.
Jim, don't we need to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay, can I make a motion to approve Resolution 3302 commending Thomas Garvey for his service as village trustee?
And I'll second that
All in favor?
Well, I
Well, you
think she's
gotta
got to do the roll call.
Call roll.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Abstain.
Abstain. Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Gieser.
Aye.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye. You coming? I never understand where the signatures go that we take. We're not telling.
They got on a super secret wall somewhere.
Thank you. Thanks again. Make sure everything is. Fine.
Okay, the next is Resolution Number 3303, honoring Kelly Lally upon his 25th anniversary of employment with the Village of Carol Stream Police Department, and Trustee Fruzzoloni has asked if she could read that.
Stand up here, you should read it.
Kelly, could you please come to the podium? He got all dressed up for us. It is an honor to be able to read this resolution. I got to read Kelly's 20-year resolution 5 years ago, ironically. Resolution number 3303, a resolution honoring Kelly Lally upon his 25th anniversary of employment with the Village of Carroll Stream Police Department. Whereas Kelly Lally joined the Carroll Stream Police Department as a police officer on March 30th, 1998. And whereas Kelly Lally has been honored with several commendations during his career, including the Chief's Award of Merit for his diligent work on a homicide investigation. And whereas Kelly Lally has served and continues to serve in many capacities, divisions, and specialties. And whereas Kelly Lally was promoted to the role of sergeant on August 5th, 2019. And whereas Kelly Lally graduated from Northwestern University School of Staff and Command on January 15th, 2021. And whereas Kelly Lally has held many roles within the police department, including detective, lead homicide investigator, juvenile officer, range officer, evidence technician, supervisor of the department's evidence technician program, member of the DuPage County Major Crimes Task Force, field training officer, officer in charge, corporal, and patrol sergeant. And whereas Kelly Lally has been employed as a public servant for 25 years as a police officer with the Village of Carroll Stream Police Department. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Carroll Stream on behalf of all the former and present elected and appointed officials and residents of Carroll Stream that Section 1, Sergeant Kelly Lally's service and dedication to the Village of Carroll Stream and accomplishments in the field of law enforcement are hereby recognized and commended. Section 2, Sergeant Kelly Lally is wished the very best of happiness and health in his continued employment with the Village of Carroll Stream. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and as approved by law, passed and approved on the 17th day of April 2023. I make a motion to approve Resolution 3303.
I'll second that.
Moved by trustee Frizzalone, seconded by trustee Zalick. Clerk, call a roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Geezer.
Aye.
Trustee Frizzalone.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
No, you're going to stand here for a picture. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Do you want to hand,
Who's the real boss?
off to somebody to take a picture?
Sure.
Chief, don't mess it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Get no selfies.
Okay.
Brianna, give us a countdown. Will you please proceed to the words? 20 minutes or less.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
2 minutes. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, Trustee Frizzalone, for reading that. That was very nice. The board, mayor, department heads. Well, thank you very much, Chief. Everybody here today. Yeah, 25 years. It's a long, long time, but it's gone pretty fast. So it's great. It's an honor to be here. It's been a privilege working for the village and serving this community. I couldn't do it without the help of everybody standing in the back of the room. Amanda, her and I, we went to the academy together, 9803, 25 years ago, so that's fantastic. So these guys have had my back this whole time, and it's just been an absolute pleasure and an honor to work with all of you. Huge thank you to my family. Without you guys, I couldn't have even thought about doing much of anything. So you guys motivate me, inspire me, and through your love and your sacrifice, it's a huge appreciation. Both my daughters are here today, my wife Amy, so this is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Next thing we have here is a introduction of Zach, and I'm not even going to try this, Public Works, Water Division, Sewer Division.
Romowitz.
You're going to have to give me your name yourself, come on.
Oh, Cromowitz.
That was easy enough.
Not as hard as it looks.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Came here from Glen Ellen Public Works, been there for 6 years, and before that, worked in park districts, all the way from Tinley Park to up north in Park Ridge.
Where'd you grow up?
Bolingbrook.
It's kind of a long-time tradition that I ask all new employees,
Very important.
are you a Cubs fan or a Sox fan?
I got the benefit of not being a fan of either one.
Good answer.
I don't know if I buy that, but
You
okay.
have to pick one.
You just got 5 extra points for that
Yeah,
answer.
well done.
He was warned, I'm sure.
I have a question.
A little bit.
Did you know Chief Homer when you worked in Glen Ellen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people from Glen Ellen come here.
That's a good thing. We're glad to have you here. Thank you.
Welcome. You
Welcome
are
aboard.
you are coming to a great Public Works Department. We're very innovative, and you're going to learn a lot in your career here, so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Zach.
And the next thing we have on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing April 28, 2023 as Arbor Day, and Trustee Geiser called and asked if he could read that. Trustee Geiser?
Thank you very much. Arbor Day, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our most precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in Carroll Stream increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas Carroll Stream is dedicated to the planting and care of trees for the purpose of maintaining a healthy and vibrant urban forest within our village. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Carroll Stream that April 28th, 2023 be known as Arbor Day in the Village of Carroll Stream, and all the residents are called upon to celebrate Arbor Day by supporting efforts to plant trees and to protect our trees and woodlands to promote the well-being of this and future generations, dated 17th day of April, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Geiser.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
I know some neighboring communities have signage, and I know we recently achieved, Carroll Stream was named Tree City USA, and it's a great accomplishment. I was just wondering, I know, is there going to be any signage or that we are a Tree City USA?
Yes. Yes, there will. Public Works Director Phil Modaf notified me that there will be how many signs, 7 or 12?
7. They sent us 2 free ones. We've ordered 5 more. And our street supervisors picked out locations on village streets at our entryways. So we'll be putting them on the same posts as the Carroll Stream that includes the population sign. So
Perfect.
7 locations.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
And we're also planting a tree this year for Arbor Day, correct?
Yes, we have a fairly long tradition of planting a tree at a school. This year it will be Heritage Lakes. We'll do it on Arbor Day on, I think it's the 28th, at 10 o'clock a.m. Our newly appointed arborist will be there to educate the kids on the benefits of trees and our forestry management plan. So it should be a very nice event, although we're scrambling a little bit to ensure better weather than what we had today, so no guarantees.
Thank you.
And if people stick around to the end of the meeting, I will tell people, I always do this, the Carroll Stream connection to Arbor Day.
Yeah, there is one.
And there is one.
Right, I
There is.
forgot.
Mr. Rhodes, was there any Request, no. Did anything come in over the internet?
No.
And we have no addresses for 3 minutes. I would like to open up the public hearing. Have to call that meeting to order,
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
okay?
Second.
Moved by trustee McCarthy, seconded by trustee Berger. Clerk, call a roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Giesers.
Aye.
Trustee Frusaloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
So the purpose of opening this is the annual budget for 2023-24, fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2023. We had put this public hearing notice published in the April 5th, 2023 edition of the Examiner of Carroll Stream. Is there any questions about our budget? Being there's no questions, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by trustee Frusaloni, seconded by trustee Giesers. Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Giesers.
Aye.
Trustee Frusaloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Okay. Is there a motion to establish a consent agenda?
So moved?
Second?
Moved by trustee McCarthy, seconded by trustee Frusaloni. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Giesers.
Aye.
Trustee Frusaloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read what is on the consent agenda?
Certainly. Board and Commission reports. Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals. Body Works Medical Center, 270 to 290 West Army Trail Road. Amendment to a special use permit for a planned development plat of consolidation. Recommended approval with conditions 6-0.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I make a comment on this?
Comment by trustee.
Comment only. Just, how exciting is it for a local business that's huge for our community and helping in many different ways, putting down serious roots and building their own building. So congratulations, Mark and Karen, we're excited to have you as permanent residents.
And I also just want to say thank you, because I know it's important to stay in Carroll Stream, and I know you give back to the community, and you're at the town center events, and so thank you very much for staying in Carroll Stream.
Absolutely.
And yes.
And that's exactly how I feel. Thank you for staying in Carroll Stream. That is huge when you build a building instead of just take one, and I'm really glad that you're staying in Carroll Stream. Thank you. Okay.
Eaton, 125 Mercedes Drive, Gary Avenue Corridor Review, new monument sign, approved with conditions, 6-0, no village board action necessary. Staff reports and recommendations. 2023 Flexible Pavement Project Award of Contract to Arrow Road Construction Company in the amount of $2,418,229.12.
Yes.
Yes.
Award of a contract to V3 Construction Group at the contract unit prices for the base bid plus options for an estimated total price of $2,455,000 with regard to the Klein Creek Streambank Stabilization Section 3 project.
Yes.
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 Approval of the proposals for professional services and independent contractors agreement with B&F Construction Code Services for consultant services not to exceed $55,000 in aggregate during fiscal year 23-24.
Yes.
Yes.
Waiver of competitive bidding and authorization to purchase a 2023 Ford Maverick pickup truck from Joe Cotton Ford for $26,452.26, less the $500 deposit for an amount not to exceed $25,952.26.
Yes.
Approval of the purchase of a sewer easement machine from Brown Equipment Company in the amount of $85,000 pursuant to the provisions of Section 5-8-3B and subsection 5-8-14L of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances.
Yes.
Yes.
Ordinances. An ordinance adopting the annual budget of the Village of Carroll Stream in the amount of $68,057,500 for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2023 and ending April 30th, 2024. The proposed budget was compiled over the last several months and has been reviewed with the Village Board in public over a series of workshop meetings that began last February.
Yes.
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 That is ordinance number 2023-04-15. Ordinance approving an amendment to a special use permit for planned development, Body Works Medical Center, 270 to 290 West Army Trail Road.
Yes.
Yes.
That is ordinance number 2023-04-16. Ordinance amending Chapter 6, Article 13, Sections 6-13-3, 613-4, 6-13-7, and 6-13-17 of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances, fees and securities for construction and new development, and amending Chapter 15, Article 4, Section 5 of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances, miscellaneous regulations, index of minimum fines.
Yes.
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 That is ordinance number 2023-04-17. Ordinance amending Chapter 11, Article 2 of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances by decreasing the number of Class C liquor licenses from 18 to 17, Diva Liquor LLC doing business as Mo Liquor, 1356 Army Trail Road, and increasing the number of Class C liquor licenses from 17 to 18, J&J Legacy Liquors LLC doing business as Legacy Liquor Company, 1356 Army Trail Road.
Yes.
Yes.
That is ordinance number 2023-04-18. Ordinance amending Chapter 11, Article 2 of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances by decreasing the number of Class C liquor licenses from 18 to 17. Noor and Gurji, Inc., doing business as Liquor and Tobacco Depot, 570 North Schmale Road, and increasing the number of Class C liquor licenses from 17 to 18. Keon 2021, Inc., doing business as Liquor and Tobacco Depot, 570 North Schmale Road.
Yes.
Yes.
That is ordinance number 2023-04-19. Ordinance amending Chapter 11, Article 2 of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances by decreasing the number of Class P liquor licenses from 7 to 6. Army Trail Gas Depot, Inc., doing business as BP Gas, 860 West Army Trail Road, and increasing the number of Class PL liquor licenses from 1 to 2. Army Trail Gas Depot, Inc., doing business as BP Gas, 860 West Army Trail Road.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is ordinance number 2023-04-20. Resolutions. Resolution adopting the 2023-24 Employee Compensation Plan for the Village of Carroll Stream. Staff recommends a general wage adjustment of 3.25% and funding this year's performance-based non-union compensation program at a set 2.5% adjustment.
Yes.
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 That is resolution number 3304. Resolution authorizing a plat of consolidation, Body Works Medical Center, 270 to 290 West Army Trail Road.
Yes.
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 That is resolution number 3305. Resolution declaring Public Works truck beds, plow, spreader box, and tank surplus, and be authorized to dispose of the property as proposed pursuant to the provisions of Section 5-8-15 of the Carroll Stream Code of Ordinances.
Yes.
Yes.
That is resolution number 3306. New business. Reappointment of Dan Hoffman to the Board of Fire and Police Commission for a 3-year term expiring April 30th, 2026.
Yes.
Yes.
Raffle license application, Pleasant Hill Elementary School PTA, approval and waiver of the fee and manager's fidelity bond for their trivia night on April 29th, 2023 at the American Legion.
Yes.
Yes.
Retail market strategy study, key retail areas, Village of Carroll Stream.
That'd be off, right?
We'll pull that off for separate presentation. Okay. And payment of bills. Regular bills, April 4th, 2023 through April 17th, 2023.
Yes.
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 Addendum warrants, April 4th, 2023 through April 17th, 2023.
Yes.
Yes.
Treasurer's report, revenue, expenditure statements, and balance sheet for the month ended March 31st, 2023.
Received.
Received.
And that concludes the items on the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion to put those items on the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by trustee McCarthy, seconded by trustee Zalick. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garby.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Gieser.
Aye.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve those items by omnibus vote?
So moved?
Second?
Moved by trustee Gieser, seconded by trustee Berger. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garby.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Gieser.
Aye.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Okay, so what we have next on the agenda here is we have a special meeting, or we have Who's going to come up here? Who did?
Presentation.
Presentation?
Sure, I can introduce this if you like. Well, yeah, there we go. So the board will remember during the last strategic plan session, one of the things we identified as kind of a to-do list item was to have a retail market study prepared for the village. One of the kind of the biggest assignments we have in community development from an economic development standpoint is looking to have our remaining vacant retail land sites developed with businesses that the village is wanting to see, as well as if we have vacant building space, bring tenants into those spaces as well. And so we've just concluded working with John Mullanaphy from Mullanaphy & Associates on the preparation of a retail market strategy study, and he is here this evening to present his findings and recommendations.
Nice.
So here's John Mullanaphy. I'll turn on the mic. There you go. You can just use the arrow buttons to kind of work your way through the slides.
Thank you very much, Don, for that introduction, and Mayor and Board of Trustees. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I don't know if you recall, we conducted a similar evaluation in 2002. I was probably a young real estate exec at that time. My father was president of the company. But I want to also thank Don for his guidance, and Joe Carey and Bob Meller throughout this process in assisting us with some of the background and what's happened since that time in Carol Stream. So obviously we've been in the business since 1971. We've been involved in site selection and market analysis and investment counsel for a variety of clients. I've worked on Mall of America and the Motorola campus, Unical, quite a few things, Chicago Cubs, lights at Wrigley Field. We did an impact study, as well as Navy Pier. We've had the benefit of getting involved with a variety of projects, not only in the Chicago area, but throughout the country, including Easton Town Center in Columbus, Ohio, if you've ever been there, one of the premier lifestyle centers around the country, and North Star Mall in San Antonio. So we were tasked with the objective of preparing a community-wide retail market strategy study. We identified present and future trends. We determined personal consumption expenditures, and we formulated an implementation plan for the village. What we were trying to accomplish was to determine your market penetration, your estimate sales, and identify the types of retailers for which there is a market in Carol Stream, and recommend actual tenants that might go to those locations. We wanted to identify categories that may be overbuilt or underserved in Carol Stream, as well as identify an implementation plan to actually go after those recommended retailers, entertainment, and services. The first thing we do is do a driving time analysis to simulate what consumers experience. And so we have identified what that market area is that assists us in delineating the trade area. This map shows kind of a 5-minute interval, a 10-minute interval, and a 15-minute interval on what a shopper would experience in driving in non-peak driving times. So we delineated the trade area based on the road network, the driving time, existing shopping habits and patterns. You may have recalled we did a actual customer intercept or customer survey, so we know what the Carol Stream customers were doing. We looked at the employment distribution and shopping habits and patterns. So we delineated a trade area of 3 miles and then 3 to 5 miles for a total of a 5-mile radius. If you look at that map, it corresponds with the driving time as well as the road network. Here is a picture of that. And so you kind of look at I-355 as a physical and psychological barrier, Butterfield Road on the south, Route 59 on the west, and up near Irving Park Road on the north. Obviously, Woodfield Mall is a big competitor. They draw a lot of sales out of other communities around them. You look at Stratford Square Mall. If you've been in the mall lately, you got 2 levels of vacant space. When we did this study in 2002, that was nearly fully occupied. So you look at Wheaton Town Square to the south. You look at Yorktown and Oak Brook, major generators, and then the Charlestown Mall has gone through transition. They've closed the interior mall. There's still Von Mauer and all the retailers that are surrounded in the services. One of the biggest parts of this assignment was actually looking at all the retail facilities within the trade area and those that influence the trade area. So we mapped and provided an inventory of all the shopping centers that influence Carol Stream. So we looked at the population resources within the primary, secondary, and total trade area to look at how that impacts expenditures. We looked at how you might, how your market penetration would be if we add retailers in each one of these categories. And we really didn't see a market for apparel given all the competitive facilities, not only in Carol Stream, but also up in Stratford Square Mall and Woodfield and Oak Brook and Yorktown. That category is really not a category that I would recommend you going after. And even some of the furniture appliances with like Art Van Furniture going after some of the others. But we did see a market for general merchandise, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but in food and some of those other categories. But you look at how Bloomingdale, they're only like $900 million in sales. You're $822 million in sales. So your batting average is really pretty strong. But we identified a few categories where we might go after tenants in those categories. So this shows your retail sales from 2015 to 2021, and they've actually, we have it going back all the way to 2012. We can actually look at those sales. And then you probably can't read this, but I would put it up here only to let you know that we looked at all your sales by retail category from 2012 to 2021. And we did that not only for your community, but for all the surrounding communities so we could see what kind of sales they were capturing by category. And this assisted us in looking at your retail sales leakage. So this is defined as dollars spent by residents outside the Village of Carol Stream. So we look at your per capita income and what those personal consumption expenditures amount to, about 30 to 35% of per capita income. And if you add in automobile dealerships, it goes at 50 to 53%. So we calculated your leakage. And so if someone wants to buy a car and you don't have that kind of dealership in town, they're leaving your community to buy that automobile. And the same with general merchandise. You got Target, Walmart, and those, you know, they're not located here. So we look at some of those areas where sales are leaving the community. But you look at your lumber and hardware and your furniture and appliances category, those are importing sales because you have the two home improvement stores and so forth. So, and then we not only to come up with these estimates, we looked at the Census of Retail Trade. It only comes out every 5 years, but it's one of the most comprehensive sources of retail sales data for every geographic area in the United States. But it doesn't come out as often as the Illinois Department of Revenue. So we looked at those numbers as well and those sources. So as I was talking to Don and Joe and Bob, this is a really challenging retail market. I mean, these guys are working hard to try to bring in new retailers and restaurants. But you look at e-commerce, and we're going to have to go after internet-resistant uses. Today, it's basically food, fashion, fun. With all the retail bankruptcies and store closings, it's been really challenging. Not only even for the mall communities, they've seen a lot of their turnover. And so that's one of the things we did. We identified all the vacant big box stores around. So if a store does come in, instead of building new on one of your sites, they could go into an existing box somewhere else. And so what's going on with Stratford, you've got all that space, and then they're going to have that land around the mall, like Woodman's, who came in and was able to plop down a store right in the parking lot where Macy's was torn down. So I have recommended that, man, if Kohl's, they're probably not going to stay there, that would be a target for Carol Stream to find a freestanding site or a vacant box to put Kohl's. I don't know how much longer they can stay. And then supermarkets, something for Jet Foods. Love to see, we identified a variety of grocers that are active right now, and that's been a very active community because it's pretty internet resistant. We've identified eating and drinking places, small like home improvement stores, and I think the focus should again be on internet resistant uses.
May I ask a question about supermarkets?
Sure.
Carroll Stream is really blessed to have a lot of variety in supermarkets. You don't see that as an issue to attract one?
Well,
or would
I
it be
don't-
more of an ethnic supermarket, or what do you
That's a
look?
great question. So some of the, our targets are ethnic grocers, as you said. So we have Jongbu, we had Park to Shop, which they've opened some stores, they've been active, and then Deli for You, which caters to the Polish community, and so those are the areas where you'd have some variety, and I certainly, you know, with what's going on with Kroger and Albertsons and that merger and how that may impact groceries, still remains to be seen, but that's where I don't see another Jewel like Jewel is and Mariano's, and then you start looking at how they are competitively aligned, where Caputo's is at and so forth, so, but great question, and that's something we thought long and hard about, like who don't we have and who is possible. So just real quickly, you know, so we looked at the automobile dealerships. I think that's another area, if we can find the right site that works for them, and more restaurants, especially like fast casual operations, fast food. Gas stations and convenience stores are real you know, popular because they generate so much sales tax revenue. And then, you know, the cannabis, a lot of communities are adding them, some are not, but they can generate $2,000 per square foot. So we looked at the former Jet Foods, and we also looked at fast casual restaurants. We'd love to get a microbrewery here if we could, as well as, you know, some specialty like Stan's Donuts and some of the ice cream like Freddy's, and some of the others that we've recommended in there. And then home improvement would be, you know, something like the Tile Shop, or it's not going to compete necessarily with Home Depot or Lowe's because we don't want to hurt them, and then the auto dealerships. So we looked at all your sites, like here's Gary Avenue and Stark Drive, so that could be some frontage, could be taken up by maybe a donut, specialty food type operation. If you look at Site B, you've got a Casey's proposed there. And so, you know, that could be not only the Stark Drive and Gary Avenue could be multifamily in the back, but maybe frontage uses. You look at some of the luxury apartment developments, they really add a lot of population resources to your community, and I think it would create pedestrian activity and retail demand. And again, same with Gary Avenue and Lees Road, the internet-related fast casual, fuel center, cannabis, drugstore, bike shop, cellular phone, or hotel. So you look at Casey's has proposed a 12-pump fuel center with 4,400 square feet of convenience. I think, again, those can generate $10 to $15 million in sales. We looked at the sites at North Avenue and Schmaley Road, and so I think that the Chipotle and Buffalo Wild Wings Go would be fantastic use there. I think that would they really generate strong sales. Buffalo Wild Wings Go doesn't have any sales history in the metro area yet, but the Chipotle, they can generate $2 million per unit easily. So that would be a really strong use. And then we looked at the McDade, former McDade store up in the northwest quadrant. I think, you know, that would be another real possible redevelopment opportunity there. And then, again, if I'm going too quickly, it's only because I wanted to be respectful of your time tonight. But the North Avenue and Schmaley Road, I talked about already, so let's get to the next one. So County Farm and North Avenue, we looked at all four quadrants of the intersection. There was a previous proposal for a fuel center on the southeast corner that went away, but I mean, if you could add auto dealers, and we've identified a couple of them here that aren't in the market, and certainly they're out in Naperville and Schaumburg and others, but I think that they are certainly targets that we should contact. And I'm speaking at the Mid-America Brokers annual meeting in May. They represent most tenants in the Chicago metropolitan area. I plan on talking to them about Carol Stream, as well as attend the Las Vegas Shopping Center convention. So I think some of the retail targets there, again, could be some of the other gas station, convenience store operations, from Circle K to Casey's to Lindy's to Speedway and Thornton's. The 3 asterisks mean you already have one of those in your community, but it's certainly they are adding additional units, and I think that there is a market for additional facilities. The cannabis, there's a variety of different cannabis type operations out there, and you know that I know that these are a couple of the big ones, and I know that you are already working, examining one of these, and you've changed your ordinance. Thanks to Mr. Rhodes, your village attorney, and getting that you know, legislation for to allow that in your zoning code. As I mentioned, in the retail targets, the tile shop was one that we thought might be a good fit in Carol Stream. We looked at electronics, so AT&T Mobility, all the cellular phone stores, those have been very active. And just because they're in a location now, they do relocate. A lot of them are independently owned and operated as franchises, so they certainly look at economics and rent. General merchandise, I mentioned Kohl's as a relocation possibility, as well as like Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, or Pop Shelf. Pop Shelf's one of the new concepts that's out there that would work pretty well possibly at Jet Foods if we're unsuccessful in getting a grocery store. But I mean, you look at that category, they're all around you in surrounding communities, so that's a tough category. I mentioned some of the grocery store targets, except for H Mart and Jimenez and Pete's, I did not mention, but Deli for You, H Mart, Jimenez, Jungbu Market, Park to Shop, and Pete's are targets that I think that we should, that I'm going to talk to Mid-America about when I meet with them in May.
Now, a question about grocers, and actually we'll go back to the Jet Foods again. We haven't had a lot of luck with people staying there.
Right. That made our job even harder.
Right. I mean, saying a grocery belongs there, I would think that grocery industry would say, well, apparently we don't because nobody can stay open. Well, that seems to be a tough location.
It is, the elevation is down a little bit when you look at, you know, you have to drive down into the center. But I still think that there are grocers. It's driven by rent. It's also could be a function of the landlord. I don't know exactly. The landlord may be difficult to deal with and not providing all the adequate services for the tenants in that shopping center. I don't know them, but I understand that the equipment is still in that store, and that could be a real advantage to someone coming in because of some of the supply chain issues with grocers, that they could actually get in there and start operating right away. And some of these new entrepreneurial ethnic grocers, it might be just perfect for someone like that. But these are considerations we, you know, had as well. Butera didn't make it, and Jet Foods didn't make it, and I can't remember.
Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly, thank you. So, yes, it's a competitive market out there. So that was a really good question. But we also have Save A Lot. I mean, some of them aren't as exciting as others, but Shop and Save is real active right now. They're opening new locations. And maybe you've seen Wild Fork Foods. They sell like all kinds of fresh fish and meat. They even have like elk and like kind of exotic things. And they're pretty popular. They're like 5,000 square feet. And they like corner locations, so some of these sites might make sense for them. Food specialty, again, I mentioned some of the ice cream places, Andy's Frozen Custards. A&W is real active, again, looking at sites. Crumble Cookies, Dunkin' Donuts, they're all over already, but, you know, they do move around, and people like donuts and coffee. So Dairy Queen, Melton Dip is a new one, and Tropical Smoothie. Some of the restaurants already, we talked about Buffalo Wild Wings under review. Brunch Cafe is a really good restaurant. Absolutely. That's active. I like them. I know the owner. Chicken Salad Chick is a new one that's going into Geneva, I believe. And the Chuck Lager American Tavern is a very active microbrewery concept, and Corrido and Dave's Hot Chicken, Guzman Way Gomez, that just opened up in Schaumburg, so they're real active. Pokey Brothers, Popeyes is real active. I know they've been around, but there's a new push for new locations. Qdoba, Salerno's Pizza, Sketchbook Brewing Company, Stan's Donuts, Sweet Green. I mean, we tried to identify active, that these are real estate and restaurant companies that are out there trying to open new locations, and Carol Stream would be a great opportunity for them. Health and fitness, again, not a sales tax producing use, but if they maybe fill a troubled space, there'd be something to look at. Obviously, you have a few in the community already. Services, you know, we're always going to need cleaners and dentists and doctors' offices and so forth, and real estate brokerage. So those might be to, you know, fill some of your vacant spaces. And I know that your staff has worked really hard to, you know, keep those spaces occupied in a challenging market. So our implementation plan, I've been attending the ICSC convention since 1985, and I know your staff has done that as well. You meet people, you talk to brokers. I think that's you know, a really good venue. And then I've advertised in shopping center business, and shopping centers today, those are read by most people in the industry. And so, like today, we were in Crane Chicago Business about our retail sales report, which is coming out in May, but I gave them a little taste of the numbers. The metro area was up 7% in retail sales in 2022. We're always looking in the rearview mirror, but sales were pretty strong, but not as strong as the following the pandemic. We were up 28%. Plus, they were also reporting all the e-commerce sales were actually being reported to the Department of Revenue. So, but some of these organizations are great ways to get your message out about Carol Stream and what a great community is, and that it's, you know, there are retail opportunities here. You know, I just mentioned some of these because of the implementation plan. You know, you've got to attract new retailers, automobile dealerships, and sales tax producing manufacturers. I mean, when you look at your manufacturing base, you know, if you make like Milwaukee saws or drills, I mean, if you have them manufacture them here in the community and then they sell them on the internet, I mean, you can reap some pretty significant sales from that. I was also trying to think of DeWalt, that was the other one. But, you know, companies like that make a product that they manufacture here and then they can sell it on the internet. So retention and expansion of the existing retailers and restaurants, one in the hands or two in the bush. So if you can help any of your existing retailers and then, you know, helping them expand or maybe even finding a larger location if they can expand on site. Some of the tools, you know, TIF, sales tax incentive agreements, you've used them before, you know, on a case-by-case basis. That would be something. And I know that your, you know, staff tries to make sure that they maintain the aesthetics, because certainly a very strong aesthetic is attractive to retailers. And so I'm going to be attending the ICSC Spring Convention in Las Vegas in May, and, you know, the village could also consider hosting a brokers open house to get the active brokers here to see sites and talk to them about them, and then advertise in some of the trade journals that I mentioned. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I tried, our report was very comprehensive, but I wanted to be somewhat brief tonight. Yes, sir.
I have a question, and hopefully it's not a dumb question, but this is the last meeting where I can say I'm the new guy. So the next new guy's out there. I saw in a couple spots where you talked about taking smaller sites and turning those into larger parcels. And I don't know if this is a question for you or for Don, but assuming that they're under different ownership, or if one is maybe still occupied, like I think the water conditioner place is still occupied. How does that work? Like, how do we make that happen?
Well, I'll take a crack at it before Don, but you know, developers look at these things kind of every day. Assemblage. assemblage of parcels, and they make a site change. It's dynamic overnight by saying, all right, let's put these three together, and now we have something to work with. And they tear down what was there, and then they're able to put in, 3 or 4 fast casual restaurants, or you put Culver's and Raising Cane's and these active retailers and restaurants that want to be at that corner. So when you look at those corners, it's challenging, and they're probably going to have to pay more money to try to get that holdout property owner. But if you can do it, that's a corner location at a very strong intersection that it's just challenging. And your question is very good also, because you have some uses there, like the pet cemetery. Those are difficult to move. But when you look at the potential that is there, if you could put a big sales tax producing use on it, and you look at some of the other corners like that and what they've been developed with.
Yeah, I mean, for example, the site at the southeast corner of County Farm and North Avenue that we've been working on for several years had 4 different property owners. So you have to get, I mean, it kind of makes the project 4 times more difficult, because you have to get 4 willing property owners to enter into, contracts to sell their property. And if one of them is not willing or has unrealistic expectations on pricing, I mean, it can blow the deal apart. So there's other businesses, like one of the ones you mentioned. We've spoken to them before, and the DuPage water softener, we talked to them, talking about connecting to Village Water. Well, you maybe not be surprised. They don't want Village Water. Their business is, but as far as annexing, trying to annex, or at that time, how are we going to get across the street to North Avenue to the south side of the businesses there? Bob Meller could share stories as well. I mean, sometimes we go in and introduce ourselves, and there's just, like, they actually are, it's a source of pride that they're unincorporated. They don't want to, annex to Carroll Stream for some reason. So, certainly, parcel assembly, though, is to your question. I mean, that's how you take smaller, more marginal sites, and sometimes that's where, if the opportunity presents itself, that's where we may come to the board and say, for this project to happen, there may need to be some level of village incentive, and obviously that would be something that the board would have to support and be comfortable with.
It's an excellent question. The Macy's furniture came to mind in Schaumburg, where someone's reimagining that site, and they're buying that big box, knocking it down, and putting all kinds of different uses on it. And they were just announced. When we contacted them, they weren't talking about that yet, because we contacted each of the villages about what was planned and proposed and how that might influence Carroll Stream. Yes, sir.
Since we're talking about North Avenue, you didn't really talk about between Coon Road and Gary Avenue, and there are some vacant spots. I do remember, though, in the 2002 study, there were some challenges you talked about, the speed of the road, yes, the divided street. Is that still an issue, and is that why those vacant parcels weren't addressed?
Yes, I mean, it's a challenge on North Avenue. It's a state road. We don't have a lot of jurisdiction over changing access points and traffic signals. There has to be enough warrants to substantiate that. And so when you look at, some of the impediments to getting that done, I certainly think that was one of our considerations.
So in your, again, I'm just throwing this at you now, are those areas feasible?
It would depend on this specific site. Everything's location, location, location. So obviously it's challenging, and we recognize that the village staff has tried to go out and assemble these. It really takes developers knowing there's an opportunity, that they have a tenant in place that wants to be there, and that makes it much more economic for them to chase it. So some of those sites are going to be, look at how many bankruptcies there's been. I mean, we're in unprecedented times for brick and mortar retailing. I mean, I was thinking back to when in 2002, and how many retailers are gone now. And when I went through Stratford Square Mall in 2002, there wasn't a lot of vacancy. It was a very vibrant facility with 6 anchor department stores. we've come a long way. And it's not just a function of the landlord. You go to Spring Hill Mall, you go to Charlestown Mall, you go to Northbrook Court. I've been to all of them. There certainly B and C malls that had Sears and Penny's and Carson's. They're in deep trouble. But great question. Some of them are going to take some time.
I have a question. So the last time that we had like a roundtable discussion, one of the discussions that we had, and Don, I don't remember if it was with the
Brokers?
the brokers, where we were talking like non-traditional uses for traditional spaces. So going back to like the Jet Foods location. So if we can't attract some kind of grocer type business, is there a non-traditional use that you're seeing coming into these big locations? And that was what we were hearing is, you know, they're really big locations, and unless you really, if they don't take the entire building, then there's a lot of wasted space that has to get sectioned off. So, you know, some things that residents have actually asked about are like indoor
Entertainment or like swim schools.
Something like that. Someone mentioned recently like indoor volleyball, something like that. I mean, is that something that we should be trying to target in that area, knowing that we've had 4 grocery stores fail in that particular location?
Yeah, I mean, my first choice would be a grocer because it's a sales tax producing use, and so we were trying to.
Right.
But I mean, you look at these air adventure parks, the swim school, Big Blue, and Goldfish, a lot of those, and you know, you mentioned volleyball, all these volleyball leagues. It's just the ceiling heights would be a problem with that particular use. But a lot of them are taken like old Sam's clubs, and you know, some of the really big box stores. And they've taken years, and it's really hard for the village board to see you know, 100,000 square foot building go to a non-sales tax producing use. And so Don and I spoke about that, and that it's, you know, it's not a trend we like to see necessarily, but these are activities that families like to do, and it does make Carol Stream a fun place to go and do things. So we've seen some of the indoor go-kart places. You look at Schaumburg's doing that, Andretti's race facility. So I think there's definitely a place for that, and that's where I would put them in a property that's been challenging to lease. And so that would be the case, like on a case-by-case basis where I would consider that.
It also draws people in town that may shop after they go to the entertainment.
That was going to be my next point, as well. That particular type business may not be sales tax generating, but it may attract one of the fast casual restaurants to want to locate near there, because when families get done recreating or whatever, they're going to want to eat somewhere. So that's kind of where I was going. And then one thing that we have heard from, I've actually heard from a couple of residents, is they're looking for family restaurants. Somewhere where you're not necessarily walking past the video gaming as you're walking into plays, or somewhere that's big enough for like sports teams to be able to go and have their, you know, end of season parties and whatever. And we're kind of limited in what places we have in town. So that was pretty high request from our youth affiliate teams is, you know, we want somewhere that's not a traditional like bar and restaurant. You know, we want something that's more family friendly for younger kids, but that has enough space so that, you know, we can, you know, take our entire team there. So that, as we're looking at, you know, talking to different restaurant type businesses, you know, that is definitely a need in our town that we've been asked to look into as trustees.
We just have to change the perception of, you know, that Army Trail Road isn't the only place, that these are viable locations. And as I pointed out to Don, like, this report can be read by real estate directors that are from out of state. We've tried to provide the market for the entire region and what's going on here. And so if you weren't from Chicago, you would know the RoadNet and the sales and the other communities around you. So I think getting to some of those non-traditional uses and something that's unique, that's what will have that drawing power and also provide cross-shopping opportunities, as Bob mentioned.
Back to the, going back to the Jet Food, just, we want to do something with Jet Foods, if you haven't figured that out.
I do too. I'm just letting you know. That was like
well,
our big thing.
in your line of work, you'd see, have you ever seen, we talked about the ethnic groceries, and most of them want smaller, areas. Has anybody ever tried to put 4 of them in one building?
Yes, in Naperville, I think they have. Like Park to Shop went into one of those where it was all, it's Park to Shop went into another one. It's Indian, and it's all Indian stores, or up in.
Well, I'm going more towards the Polish, the Polish grocery, and maybe an Indian grocery. Yeah, quad the inside of it out where there's 4 ethnic groceries in one building of maybe different ethnicities. Thank you.
So like H Mart does that with their little food court inside their larger stores where they have all kinds of little different vendors. And so that's certainly something that has been done, but it's hasn't been done successfully all over the place. And that's why I would be concerned about recommending that to this board and this village when I wonder how it is accomplished, how you get 4 grocers to work together in one space. I would love to see it. I would be concerned about the challenges.
Well, there's an example, but it's all Japanese, or it was, I don't think.
Yeah, up in Arlington Heights, yeah.
Which
Mitsubishi
actually kind of.
But a lot of the individual stores I've noticed, they close or are closed, so.
I didn't think Mitsubishi Marketplace in Arlington Heights, they do that. It's similar to H Mart's formula. But, and then in Naperville, they did this whole shopping center, was all vacant, and they did all these Indian merchants. And that's been pretty successful. And then I was going to mention the Koreans up at Central and Milwaukee took over this whole center and built it new. Jongbu is the grocer is their anchor tenant. It's all like Korean uses. So you have you have some Asian population. That would be another area that we looked at. That's why we recommended some of those types of grocers, because there are really not a lot of them here, and they could tap into that market.
Do you see, is there a benefit to having, and Don, you could answer this as well, of dealing with individual property owners, or if the village owns the property?
One of my
not advocating, just want to.
You asked me, so I'm going to tell you.
You're the expert.
I really think that the village should stay out of the real estate business. That's something that I tell all of our clients, unless it's absolutely necessary to get in and to control that site. But we don't have, villages don't have the profit motive to turn it over as quickly as a private developer would. Private developer, they're going to tie it up and they're going to make sure they have an end user and they're going to get it developed. Where the village, it takes longer to do that. And so unless it's a site that you absolutely have to have, I've up in Wheeling, they did the Wheeling Town Center. They bought Wicks Furniture. They tore down the building. It sat for years and years. I know your colleague Jim Ferrolo worked on that. And, it just, opportunity cost, it takes it off the tax rolls for all that time.
Yep.
So I could go on and on, but good question though. Like Elk Grove is doing it with their, Arlington Heights and Higgins. Elk Grove Wood Shopping Center, they're buying the whole thing, like $13 million, and they're doing a whole redevelopment.
So looking at Carroll Stream itself and ignoring everything around it, so ignoring Stratford and some of the other challenges around us, the Army Trail and Target and all that, are there things unique to Carroll Stream, maybe something in our demographics that makes it more challenging to attract some of the big names that we've been talking about?
I think the town center, we were concerned that would be viable because of the proximity. So that I think it's hard to go against the market, and the market has spoken that most of those retailers are up on Army Trail Road in proximity to the mall. And until the mall isn't viable anymore and there aren't any other sites, it's going to be a challenge to get them to go outside consumers' regular shopping habits and patterns. That's their pattern. And so I think that there's a lot of unique things about Carroll Stream, and you look at the traffic that it carries. We just have to get anchors. I think that, like, as to your point about ethnic grocers, changing that pattern and bringing a grocer or a user that's going to attract a customer on a highly frequent basis and change that pattern.
But even like, and I'm trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. But like, you know, they go into a database and they look up Carroll Stream and look up all the details of Carroll Stream. And obviously some are looking at that and saying, okay, let's go to the next town. There's something that's making them move on.
Trader Joe's, perfect example. We've been told we don't have the demographics to
Yeah.
Trader Joe's.
Well,
That's-
yeah,
I think
that's
kind of where you were going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say anything about that, but certainly they, you know, you look at Bloomingdale's sales, they're not that much stronger than yours. And yet they have a regional mall, but it's because the regional mall is plummeted. But they look at your average household income, your ethnic characteristics, and so, but that was the, let's face it, real estate people look at where are the malls. Like 32% of all the retail sales in the Chicago metropolitan area are in the core mall markets. And so they don't even, they go, okay, where should we go? Okay, let's go to Stratford, let's go to Yorktown. I mean, across the street from it. And that's where that's an established retail pattern. And so that's generally where they recommend that their clients go. So we, in our retail sales report, we have 28 core markets. And if you look at those markets, that's where most of the sales are being captured. And so it's hard to change that pattern without like taking it over, like with a Korean grocery operation or ethnic grocers going in and creating their own destination. Any other questions, or? I could talk about retail all night, so I know you guys got better things to do. And
Very thorough.
It is.
Yeah, very thorough. Thank
Very
you.
great information.
Thank you very much, and certainly, if you have additional questions, just let Don know, and we'll get them answered for you.
Put in the good work for us in May.
Yes.
Will do.
Do you think it would be beneficial if our community development department maybe went to Las Vegas?
I did recommend that as a possibility. It's not cheap. It's an expensive undertaking. It's probably like with airfare and hotel could be, and just to go to the event's like $950, so it's like $2,000. But I generally have 30 meetings set up before I even go there and step off the plane, so that I am talking to retailers and developers about opportunities.
I would volunteer as a trustee to go with them, to keep an eye on them and
Want
make
to take
sure
pictures. Yeah.
they're getting the most out of the money.
Mind.
You know, I'm looking out for
I was
taxpayers.
thinking.
A
not
lot of
me.
mayors do go, just so you know, and so that, but, you know, it takes some advanced work, and we recommended that in 2002, so this isn't any like new, I mean, I would encourage any municipality that if you want to be in the game, at least go to the local one down at Navy Pier in Chicago, where it's the deal making, and I know that your staff goes to these things, so it's just, you know, it's the largest convention in the country.
We did go about 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mayor and I did.
And what happened?
Yeah.
What did you bring back?
Ross was the speaker at the convention. He spoke to the retailers. We made some contacts, but of course they were looking at Stratford Mall. Walmart was looking in the area. They were looking along North Avenue, but the traffic was too fast. They were looking for a smaller store along North Avenue.
We talked about that in our report. I thought they were gonna want a larger store though.
Yeah.
But they have, their needs change.
And car dealers have a distance from one place to the next, if you're a Dodge dealer or a Ford dealer or whatever it might be?
They would like to say that they do, but it's all based on population density and income. So, to your point too, they're all in Naperville, or
All in
they're
St. Charles.
Schaumburg, or so they do congregate and they do talk, and so that generative attraction of having all the dealerships. I was thinking of Crown Point, Indiana, where they're all like on US 30. I mean, there has to be like 10, 15 dealers.
Libertyville along Milwaukee Avenue.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Grand Avenue and.
But I would be very proud of what you guys have. I mean, it's $800 million in sales is very strong. And when you look at, in comparison to surrounding communities, I mean, the Schaumburgs of the world do like $3 billion. But, most of the if you do over like about 1.8, you're in the top 10 in the municipalities in the metropolitan area. So I would be proud of what you have, and then the industrial part of that equation also is very strong and could get stronger in the future.
Well, that brings up something, it's not that we say that we're proud, but as the retail world my wife works in retail, so as it's changing into the future, will we end up with a bunch of vacancies, a bunch of vacant buildings? What is your forecast?
I think that a lot of these retail spaces are being reimagined, and I think I was just talking to Cranes the other day about it's good real estate. Normally, where they're at now, it's good real estate. So, I mean, you're on a major traffic artery on North Avenue or Army Trail Road or Gary. These sites will be reinvented. And so, and I think a lot of these malls, they're gonna put multifamily residential and create live, work, and play environments. They could change them into fulfillment centers, where you click and collect. So you go online, and instead of having it delivered, you go get it and open your van.
Yeah.
I remember merchandise.
Service merchandise.
Yeah.
But great question. I mean, we're all trying to figure out where is it going with e-commerce? And I think Amazon is finally finding out how expensive it is to deliver. And I mean, they have cut back on all their fulfillment centers and their deliveries, the cost of gasoline. I know they're going to Rivian trucks, but they, all these costs are starting to add up. It's not as easy to deliver, especially grocery. And they have failed with their grocery stores.
Well, I just know 35 years ago or whatever, when my wife decided, I'm going to become a retail manager, get into that business, there'll always be stores. They'll always, what's 35 years from now going to look like,
Yeah, no, it's interesting to watch. That's why I love the business.
40 years ago, I decided to get in the food business because I thought everybody had to eat, and I was right. I do have to eat.
Absolutely. And so even the grocery delivery, you're not always getting what you wanted, and you're not picking out the produce and that thing. So I've watched that and how right before the pandemic, there was a delivery service, and all of a sudden Peapod. They were like, we're going to revolutionize, and they stopped right before, and then COVID hit, and they weren't they weren't in it, and all these other delivery service, Instacart, and they were all couldn't keep up with demand.
It's funny, if Peapod would have stayed around a little bit longer, they probably would have.
Weren't they in Carroll Stream?
We had one in Carroll Stream.
Yeah.
What was it? Not Home Base. Can't remember the name of them, but they were in our industrial park. Yeah.
So it's just fun watching the retail evolve. So I think you're in a good position. Like, you have a diverse economic mix of industrial and retail, and so I think you will benefit from some of the warehouse distribution, logistics, and manufacturing, the reshoring of companies back to the United States to manufacture here. So I think you're in a great spot.
Which is actually absolutely happening right now.
Yes. Right, sorry, unless you have any other questions, I want to let you guys go. So thank you for the opportunity.
Really great information. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Very nice job putting this together.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was a good conversation.
Report of officers?
Oh, wait, that was taken off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So do we have to put it back?
There's nothing to vote on.
Nothing?
No,
Okay.
no.
Berger.
I got to follow all that good information. Congratulations to Kelly Lally on 25 years. I worked at my main employer before I left for 25 years, so I know how that's really a lot of time. It's a good part of your life. And welcome to Zach, who I saw he snuck out just before the presentation. Would like to wish everybody a happy tax day for those who celebrate. You know, there'll be some people panicking tonight and tomorrow. A reminder that on October 7th, the Carroll Stream Chamber Foundation is holding a 5K race in Carroll Stream, and they are looking for volunteers and sponsors. So if you have any interest in that, please contact the Chamber of Commerce. I would like to, I think this will be my only moment to do it, but I just wanted to thank Trustee Garvey for his time that he has given to the village. And I'll miss your really good budget questions because that's not my expertise. So been a lot of times we're like, oh, that was a really good budget question. So I'll try to pick up the slack there. And Joe, after watching the meetings for, I believe, at least a year and a half, you've been sitting out there. We expect you to hit the ground running. We have really high expectations of you. So, you know, I would say no pressure, but that was totally designed for pressure.
Bring the guitar, too.
Yeah. And at our last meeting, we had a lovely reading of a proclamation recognizing Sikh Awareness Month. So I would just like to keep that going. So make sure you're learning about the Sikh religion and way of life, and it has a lot to teach you. So that ends my report.
Thank you, Trustee Berger. Trustee Garvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My last meeting, my last remarks. First of all, I'd like to give my compliments to the board and the mayor, and thank you all for your kindnesses and courtesies for the last 2 years. It's probably not well known, but I did intend to run as a trustee 2 years ago. And had collected all the signatures and do everything you have to do when the mayor asked me if I would fill in this seat for the next 2 years, which I thought was a very magnanimous thing to do. I don't think it's a normal thing where someone you had once been an adversary with, because we did run against each other 100 years ago. Adversary, I think, is too strong a word, because we didn't really know each other then. But I'm grateful for the last 2 years because I think we've actually become friends, and I really appreciate that. It's important to me. I've been privileged to serve in Carroll Stream as a police commissioner and now as a trustee. And I thank you for that opportunity, and it's all due to you. I want to compliment the staff and the department heads as well. I was much less aware of the high competency that all of you do have, and the skills that you perform on behalf of Carroll Stream. I wish I had been more complimentary over the last 2 years. I've tried to be, but I'm always impressed with how competent you are. I don't know, I can't compare you to other villages, but I just admire you all. I think you're excellent at your jobs. And I think only one staff member or department head actually lives in Carroll Stream. But all of you have the highest commitment to the village and service to its residents. So I really compliment you for that, and I thank you for that as well. I want to give special thanks to Bob, because I feel like we've become friends too over the last 2 years, for your patience with me and your sensitivity and commitment. And you're always ready and instant to answer questions for me, and I really appreciate that. I couldn't have done it without you. So, as I mentioned, I intended to run 2 years ago, and I had my own agenda, but that quickly changed after I was sworn in. I've spoken about this with the mayor. But, and I wasn't expecting this, because to be honest with you, I never prayed for any of you guys before I actually was put on the board. But almost immediately after I took the oath, that became a burden on me, where I could not pray without praying for all of you every day. I prayed for each one of you by name, everybody on this dais, all the staff members. I've called your name before the Lord, and your spouses and your children, and I count that a privilege. I never expected that to happen in the last 2 years, but that's been my primary burden. I pray for all of your safety and your protection, primarily the police department and the public works department. But primarily, I pray that you all come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. Not the man that I used to be, and that's because of him. So I thank you for the privilege of serving with you, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Trustee Garvey. Trustee Zalick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to thank Tom here for his service. It's a tough job. I know it's easy to be a weekend keyboard warrior and complain and think things could be so much better, but here you actually took it upon yourself to sit up here, and you stayed true to yourself, and that's commendable. So thank you for your service. I know you had only good intentions for the village, so thank you. Second of all, Kelly Lally. I worked with Kelly while I was on the job. He was a detective, and when I became a detective, he taught me a lot. He is very knowledgeable, and I just hope, I asked, so any thoughts of retirement? And, he says, not yet. I'm like, so I hope it's far, far away, because he is a true asset to the department. He's very knowledgeable and just a great officer and a great person. So congratulations on your 25 years of employment with the village. Zach, I'll get you to be a Sox fan. So I know you're on the fence, and I'm sure I'll convince you to be a Sox fan. But welcome aboard. You're joining Public Works, which is a great organization and just great bunch of guys. So you'll do very well here in the Carroll Stream Public Works. I want to wish my beautiful wife a happy birthday. Saturday was her birthday, so we celebrated, but I just wanted to be on public record that I think she's beautiful, and I wish her a very happy birthday. And thank you for putting up with me.
That's the big part.
Also, I know I read the police department is recognizing April 16th through the 22nd as National Volunteer Week. And I know this is another opportunity to thank our volunteers for everything they do for this village and the department and the community. So thank you to all of our VIPs. And then finally, keep our first responders and military in our thoughts and prayers. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Zalick. Trustee Gieser.
Thank you very much. I too would like to congratulate Kelly Lally for 25 years. It's wonderful when we have so many employees with so much institutional knowledge and expertise to provide to our residents. So hopefully he sticks around for a long time. And welcome to Zach, a new person who'll be creating and developing that memory, and will be learning from his coworkers. And Tom, thank you for your service. Coming up, a few things I just wanted to mention. Saturday is the community food drive. Many of us are participating in the neighborhood food drives, but if you're not doing that, or people have not dropped bags off in your neighborhood, you can go to various locations around the village, all the usual suspects, the village and the Fountain View and Simkus and the library. You can drop off food there. So please participate. So many people think that that it's only at Christmas time that there is a need. It's so false. That there is a real need, and the food pantries desperately need assistance this time of year. So please contribute, and when you think you've contributed enough, contribute a little more. The next parade, the Carroll Stream Independence Day Parade fundraiser will be May 9th at Culver's. There'll be information up on social media and in the newspapers, so please pay attention to that and participate if you can. And earlier, I was really pleased to read an Arbor Day proclamation, and I always bring this up because there is a Carroll Stream connection to Arbor Day. J. Sterling Morton founded Arbor Day in Nebraska. His son, Mark Morton, lived in what is now, in part, what is now Carroll Stream. Many of us who've lived here a while remember the old Morton Manor, where the Wheaton Bible Church is now, at the corner of North Avenue and what street?
Morton.
Morton Road. And when Mark Morton built the old Georgian mansion there in 1931, one of his first things he did was plant like 100,000 trees throughout the area. So, you know, it'd be hard pressed for us to say, well, there it is. But if we take a look at some of the older trees in the southeastern area of Carroll Stream and the unincorporated area, many of those trees are because of the legacy of the Morton family. And if anyone cares, his brother, Joy, founded Morton Arboretum. So the trees were within their blood, and Mark Morton is buried in the family plot at Morton Arboretum. They were founders of Morton Salt, if you didn't know. So, but there's a little history for you about, you know, it's nice to know that, you know, here so many people think Carroll Stream's just this little suburb in the middle of nowhere. But it's nice to know that we're connected to the great, vast world. You know, there's things happened here. So, and will continue to happen here. That's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Geiser. Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to congratulate Kelly Lally. I had the honor of reading his 20th anniversary and now his 25th anniversary, I was going to say proclamation, resolutions. I've known Kelly, I think I met him at my very first town center event when I started as a police volunteer like 15 years ago. So I've known Kelly for a long time. So it was an honor to read his proclamation and to really, resolution, and to get to know him over the years. We've had some really great conversations. So that's why I had asked if I could read his resolution. I want to welcome Zach. I know Phil and your team, you guys are gonna really do well with him. It's nice that he's got a background when he comes in here, so he can recognize how innovative our Public Works Department is. So I think he's gonna be a great addition. And hopefully we'll remember how to pronounce his last name. Tom, thank you. Stepping up and taking a seat up here, I know we make it look easy, but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's because of our staff. Our staff really makes our job so easy, even when it's not easy. When we need information, we have multiple sources that we can go to at any time to get questions answered very quickly so that we can then answer questions for our residents. But to step up and to take a seat up here, it takes a lot of dedication to do that. And I want to say thank you for the 2 years that you've been on the board. You do have very well thought out questions, and yeah, the budget process, Trustee Berger is correct. You have some really great insight when you're asking questions during our budget process, but just stepping up here when we had our vacancy, but willing to actually take that next step also and run for election. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I wish you and your wife the very best, and I hope that you continue to come to Thursday night concerts and visit with us, and you know, ribbon cuttings and whatever else. I hope that you'll stay in touch and come and visit with us. We have so much that is going to be coming up soon, and I'm going to ask Brianna to just give a quick update on where we are with our concert sponsorship, but also Don't we have an event coming up, our first event of the season coming up? This is where you do the plug.
So as of right now, we have $17,500 pledged towards our concert series, which is great, and we're still reaching out to different businesses in the area. As far as our first event, are you talking about our first concert?
I'm talking about Geek Fest.
Oh, yes. So Geek Fest is going to be Saturday, June 17th. We've already met with the Geek Inc. comic store just to go over some details. We'll be meeting with the chamber, I believe, next week. Really excited and looking forward to it. Looks like we might have a few more food vendors as well as retail vendors related to comics and superheroes and all of that. So looking forward to it, and I'll probably have some updates in the next few weeks after these meetings.
Perfect. Thank you. And then the last thing I just want to talk about, I want to piggyback off of what Trustee Gieser was talking about with the food drive. I know in my neighborhood, someone was brave enough today to brave the weather and putting bags at the doors in my neighborhood today. So if you see a blue, bright blue, reusable bag, that is what you can put your donations, drop it at the bottom of your driveway this Saturday, and then we have volunteers all throughout the community that are going to be picking up the bags and bringing them over to Glenbard North. If for some reason you miss putting it out on time, you can always come over to Glenbard North. There's going to be a huge group of volunteers that are going to be unloading vehicles throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, we will be loading up vehicles for the 6 different food pantries that we'll be servicing. Last year, I want to say it was 7 tons of food. It was a little over 1 ton of food per food pantry that we were able to provide for. As we learned last week, we were handing out the checks that we had, the donations from the bags tournament, and as we presented the checks to food pantries, we asked them just if they wanted to say a couple of words, and resoundingly what the message was is there is such a huge need right now. They're seeing 50, 60, 70% increase in need right now. So the food pantries desperately need our help. So let's do what Carol Stream does. We get together and let's see if we can maybe bring in 8 tons of food this year. I know all the schools are doing food drives. I know that at the end of the week, the police and fire department usually go to different pickup sites and bring everything over to the high school, and then the Rotary Club has it down to a science on how everything is going to run on Saturday. The weather could be a little bit better, so I'm going to ask Trustee Berger to stay off social media with the S word, unless it's sun, because right now it's supposed to be a little chilly, and the forecast actually has gone down into the low 40s instead of the mid 40s, and there's a chance of mixed precipitation right now, but we still have several days, so hopefully, maybe an 80-degree day will pop up, and that'll be a little bit more comfortable than when we've had to do it in the rain in the past years. But it doesn't stop anyone. We will be out there all day, and Glenbard North is so dynamically flexible. When we've had rain, snow, sleet, we just move inside and still make sure that we get all of the donations going to the places where they really need our help. So please help us out on Saturday. Every little bit really does make a big difference in our community. And with that, I will end my report.
Thank you, Trustee Frizzoloni. Trustee McCarthy.
Okay, I'll try to keep this short. First off, more than anything, Zach, welcome aboard. As everybody said, we got not just Public Works, we got a great staff. And we're always excited when somebody new joins our staff and fills a need that maybe we didn't have, or it's due to growth that we need a little more help. So we're always excited to look at new faces and welcome them aboard. But we're also very excited to keep those who've been so important to us, like Kelly Lally. Congratulations on 25 years, and I hope Mary gets to read your 30th and 35th, to be honest, because people like you we need. Everybody needs. And we're just appreciative of your family giving up so much of your time since you're here. So congratulations. Tom, I think Trustee Zalik said it best. It was so impressive how much you stayed true to yourself. Your questions were honest and well thought out. Every time it came to the budget, you were right on top of it, detailed wise, not just big view. And I know every way you spoke and talked and voted was what you believed was in the best interest of Carol Stream, and that's really what anybody here wants. We want the people up here to believe what they're doing is in the best interest. We're not always going to agree. That's okay. You did a great job. We appreciate your couple years. So thank you. And one last time we get to talk about the bags. Trustee Frusloni spoke about it briefly, but officially, we gave out donations to 16 different charities. We gave $27,500 and some change to American Cancer Society through Relay for Life. Our two sports co-sponsors for the kids' bags tournament each got $1,500. Special Olympics got $1,500. Our Special Olympics through the Carol Stream Police Department. DuPage Animal Shelter and Almost Home Foundation each got $1,000. And then our 10 adult charities, which included 5 of the food pantries that touch Carol Stream and make such a big impact, each got $3,300 for a total of $67,027, I think what it was. But it's the coolest night in the world. When you get to hand out, and you actually know you're making an impact. I mean, I love American Cancer Society, but that $27,000 donation to them is relatively small when you look at some of the donations they get. What we did locally, that's going to fill food pantries. That's going to give 3 more scholarships to Glenbard North through the Dominic Savarino Foundation. That's going to make sure just about anybody who wants to be involved in a Park District program, no matter their financial situation, is going to be able to do it. It's going to make sure vets who happen to be homeless aren't hungry too, thanks to Violet's Kitchen. Diapers and formula for babies. The Knights of Columbus, making sure anybody who needs to be taken care of is taken care of. I just feel like this year, more than any year, we hit from the baby all the way to seniors. We found a way to make an impact, and that's what I love about our team. Everybody was on board and said, let's do more, and then our sponsors, our players, our residents, our businesses, everybody jumped in, and that's why we just kept repeating one team Carol Stream, because every single time we needed to make that next hit, somebody from around here stood up and said, I got you. Whether it's somebody that Mary knew, or Jeff knew, or I knew, or Frank knew, Chrissy's, whoever, and it happened again and again to get us to that point. Do I expect to hit it again next year? No. We'll drop back down and we'll pick a reasonable target, and if things go wonderful again, we're going to go right back after it and see how many people we can make a difference with. So one last time, everybody, thank you very much to the committee. You guys are absolutely awesome, and that's the end of my report.
Wonderful job.
No report for me today.
No report. Whoa. Mary already got it out of you, what you want to say. Okay. Clerk Swarzy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I too would like to thank Trustee Garvey for your service these last 2 years, and really touching report that you gave, and everything you've done is from the heart, and it's so clear that you love Carol Stream, so thank you for your service. And also congratulations to Sergeant Kelly Lally. I hope too, like everyone else, that he sticks around for another 25 years. I thank him for his service to the Carol Stream Police Department. And I welcome Zach Akramowitz to the Public Works team. Did I say that right? And congratulations to Chief Homer and the Carol Stream Police Department for beating our Carol Stream Fire Department in the Hero Dodgeball Tournament Friday. Ooh. We have a firefighter, I'm just ignoring it. It was a lot of fun. It was a great tournament, and Joe Kish organizes this every year. It was the biggest tournament he's had. A record number of teams. They raise a ton of money to support charities like Lurie Children's Hospital, the Midwest Shelter for Homeless Veterans. So it was just a great time. That was Friday night. And I have to apologize for missing the third, I think was it Thursday?
Wednesday.
I'm sorry, what's
Wednesday.
that? The Wednesday. We did have a swearing-in ceremony for a new fire chief, Deputy Chief Jason Day, who was just sworn in. He came from West Chicago to our world-famous Carroll Stream Fire Department, so welcome to Jason Day. And also wanted to report that we had the opportunity to visit the new Scarce facility in Addison recently, just last week. And I learned there that it's better to reuse even than to recycle. So whenever you're ready to toss something out, even if you want to recycle, if you have a way to reuse it, please do that. I don't know if anyone's seen their facility, it's huge. It's full of books, art supplies, musical instruments, and so they collect donations that any teacher, any nonprofit can come and take whatever they need for their classrooms, for their organization. So the whole idea is stop throwing stuff away, reuse it if you can. So if you have things like that you want to drop off, they accept everything. And also they're an incredible facility because they have a huge room where they educate school children. So they can fit up to 75 fifth graders in one room where they educate them on the importance of recycling, reusing, reducing, and everything. So starting kids at a young age to think about, our environment. So that was a really cool thing. Also, in terms of the environment, just a reminder that April 29th, which is not this Saturday, it's the following Saturday, Greg and I are doing a Carroll Stream section of the Great Western Trail cleanup. So anyone, I know we have a few volunteers already, anyone else want to volunteer, join us. Thank you, Public Works Director Modaf, for lending us supplies. Public Works is giving us a dolly to collect the garbage, the bags, the gloves, everything. So thank you for that. And super excited for the Carroll Stream Fountain to become operational again.
Soon.
Is it Memorial Day? Is that the target date?
Yes.
That's wonderful because I get a lot of questions about, hey, what happened to the fountain? When's it come? So I'm super excited. So
It's progressing very well.
awesome. I saw the pictures. Looks great. And last but not least, I just want to remind everyone to shop and dine Carroll Stream. And if you can, try to use reusable shopping bags. If you can't, if you have to use some of the plastic bags, just know that your local grocers, like Jewel especially, I'm always throwing those plastic bags in the recycling bin because they have to go to a special recycling center. Otherwise, they will tangle up the regular recycling equipment. So anytime you see someone that puts their recyclables in a plastic bag and then puts it in their blue recycling bin, know that's going to go to a landfill. So just keep that in mind. Plastic bags have to stay out of your recycling bin. So again, shop and dine Carroll Stream. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rhodes, our village attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just my welcome to Zach Akramovitz. Very nice to see him come on board. Also, congratulations to both Sergeant Lally for 25 years of service and also Dan Hoffman for his reappointment to the BOFPC. And then finally, Trustee Garvey, please accept my thanks for your service to the village of Carroll Stream and also my best wishes for you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Mr. Meller, village manager.
I just have two quick thank yous to two public servants. Obviously, Kelly Lally, who came to us from the military ranks, so he was in public service before, and he came over to the village and did the same thing over here. We think he's doing a great job. And thank you to Trustee Garvey for your public service. I know you've been involved in the village for a long time, not necessarily on the village board, but on the Board of Fire and Police, and you've always had an interest in what the village does. So we appreciate your interest, and if you ever have any questions, give me a call. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you. Well, their new Public Works employee, Zach, welcome aboard again. You'd be working with, you think he's watching this on television?
No.
I mean, we're all talking to him like he's sitting out here. And it's like, no, he's gone.
Phil, you're going to pass this on, right?
Yeah, Joe, that's good.
I think.
But it's always nice to have new employees come in. It's always sad to see employees leave. Kelly Lally, I've known for a very long time. Wonderful police officer, wonderful person, comes from a great family. So we're glad to have him. 25 years is phenomenal. Trustee McCarthy mentioned a few things about the bags tournament, of what actually went to the food banks, and I put a pencil to it. And that 3,500 times 5 of the food banks that got money equals about $115,000 of food that they get from the Northern Illinois Food Bank. I started playing around with it, and I was thinking 7 to 1, 7 to 1. And that is a lot of food that's going to go in. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to have food to eat for at least an extra 2 or 3, 4 weeks by giving them that kind of money. We have Violet's Kitchen here with us tonight, Susie. Sue and her husband have taken upon themselves to actually feed the military. And I'm not sure how it all works, but she's got it working. She got money, and I hope that she's able to move that same money into the same way where it's like compounding interest at a high rate real quick. But thank you for what you do, and thank you for being. You attend a lot of our meetings, and we really appreciate that. But I appreciate what you're doing for the military to help feed the families and whatever. Trustee McCarthy also mentioned that we give out scholarships. My son that passed away, Dominic, went to Glenbard North, wrestled and played football, loved Glenbard North, passed at 36 years old, and we decided several years back, maybe 5, 6 years ago, that we would start raising money and we would give scholarships out in his name to keep that memory going. So this Wednesday, we're giving 5 scholarships out at Glenbard North to 5 students that probably would not get scholarships because we don't do it by grade point average. We do it by need, and we have 2 teachers that work there that actually do it for us. We raise the money, and then they pick the students. We'll do a 6th one this year, but that will be from the village that goes to an outside school that has shown absolute phenomenal ability to get things done and work with the community, is in our Citizen Police Academy, and also been through CERTS. So having that involvement and not being at Glenbard North is still what we look for, and we give them their names. So that'll work out really good. But thank you for the money that you gave to the Dominic Savarino Foundation, and that will go tenfold for what we're given. So, but thank you. Tom, I don't even know what to say to you. When we ran against each other, you ran a wonderful race. You're a Christian man. And I really hoped that you would do exactly what I thought you would do when you got here, is help us. I know you're very intelligent, and you did exactly what we thought you would do with the finance, the questions that you asked. I don't want to say, I feel bad that you're leaving. I wish things would have worked out different and you would have ran and stayed aboard with us. You played a big role in our budget process. You ask a lot of good questions. Being a Christian is not always easy. And I really appreciate everything that you've said and done, and it was said here today, that everything that you said and everything that you've done was to make this a better community. I spend not as much time recently as I did before COVID hit. I meet with all the pastors that want to meet, and I would spend probably, I don't know, we'd meet about every 3 months, and we meet, and we have whoever wants to come. We were up to 15 or 18 pastors at a time. I let them pick the restaurant, because I believe it doesn't matter if you're, what denomination you're in, whatever. We all need to have something in our life besides nothing. We need something in our life. And by meeting with them, I asked them to pray for me to make me a better person so I could make this a better town. COVID hit when everything went away. Opioids came back to where they were, maybe worse than before, all the stuff that we've done. But we're back with the churches meeting together, and It started out, the first meeting was only like 6 pastors, but that's okay. It's a beginning. We got new pastors. I hope to be able to take that for the next quarter and maybe get 8 or 10 or 15 to get together. I think a lot of what happens in the faith-based part of our community, and we need those people. They are a lot of help for me to find out what's going on where it isn't always on the surface, but they know and are able to share that with me. And then I can share back with the staff or police department or whatever it might be. It's not always easy what we do up here. We sometimes take a lot of grief from people that think they could do it better. It's easy when you sit out there and watch it on television to make comments, but we've got one heck of a group up here, and we have, and it was mentioned, Trustee Fruzzoloni couldn't have said it any better. We have a staff that's to kill for. Trustee Garvey, same thing. If we do bad, it's because we didn't follow that direction. They're all highly educated. They may not live in this town like we all do, but they care about it as much as we do, and maybe more in some cases. They care about what happens in this community. And that is really important. And I think that's the reason when you look back, we have no debt. We have the best roads. We have, in my opinion, and I got criticized for this one, we have a great school district. We have a good park district. We've got a great library. I mean, when you look, the great best fire department around. I mean, we can't take credit for all those things, but it all comes together as a community. And a lot of it starts right here in this room where it all starts to come together. We're at the top and everybody else is right, we're all together. And as long as we all treat each other like human beings and don't get sideways with each other, we can get a lot of things done. So we've got a lot of healing to do, and I'm sure that we'll be able to do all that going forward. So with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee McCarthy, second by Trustee Fruzzoloni. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Berger.
Aye.
Trustee Garvey.
Aye.
Trustee Zalick.
Aye.
Trustee Giesner.
Aye.
Trustee Fruzzoloni.
Aye.
Trustee McCarthy.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.